Hi, this is Debbie. Welcome back to Cheyenne, Wyoming Urban Gardener. And it is July 25th. And we are out here just looking at, remember when I said it was the tame before the wild? Well, we have gotten to the wild. There's not a whole lot of tame still left in this garden. It is just going wild, even out here in the container garden. And I just wanted to turn the camera on and share with all of you some of the updates with the garden in the past few days, which would be, we now have doll baby watermelons. They are very small right now. They're more on the ends of the vines over in that section, as well as the ends of the vines here and over there. And as I said, they are now wild. They are just going everywhere. And the basil, same thing. I have harvested off of this basil 3 times in a week, and it's already ready to harvest again. All the little suckers on the basil pop up with whole new leaves just in a very short amount of time. Even the cinnamon basil, which really does smell and taste like cinnamon and basil mixed, right here is huge. I've never had cinnamon basil so big. And just loads and loads of doll baby watermelons in there. And we've still got so many strawberries in here. I wish I could show them to you. You can see a little peak of red right in there, and some more over there. And there's so many green strawberries in here, but loads of red too. And we've got so many tomatoes now hanging, and we've got some yellow pear tomatoes that are now getting ripe, and we've got our burpee picular cucumbers that are starting to get much bigger now, getting their mature leaves. Even our butter dish squash in the container here has really spread out. This is the one that we saved from the prior nasty soil, and we just went ahead and popped it into some fresh clean soil mixed in with a little bit of the older soil, and it has really just greened up, starting to spread out, even thinking about blooming. It's going to have to get a lot bigger before it starts producing anything, but the fact that it is doing this just is amazing to me after how bad that it was. Remember, it was all yellow and now it's green. And we're looking over here at our cantaloupes and Crenshaw and cucumbers mixed together. Yes, there's a possibility that they will cross-pollinate, but I don't care because I'm not saving seeds off of these anyway. And you would see what would happen to them next time you plant, not this time around. And even if it did, honestly, we've had one cross-pollinate before and it hasn't been that bad. It's still edible. So we're just going to keep on with what we're doing here with this experiment. We've got 3 Sharon Tay Cantaloupe here, 3 white spine cucumbers in the middle, and 3 white Crenshaws on the left side. And just look how beautiful these vines are. I'm really having to back up here so you can see how large they are. We're looking at vines that are almost 10 feet across now. And the leaves are the biggest that I have ever seen on cucumbers and cantaloupes. Look at that. My hand is gone. Just huge, huge leaves. And basically all I did to this pot was to layer soil with a little bit of some Job's organic fertilizer and a little slight bit of some black cow compost. The rest of it is just soil. It's in a very large barrel type container, as you can see here, and which really isn't super large in comparison. Like, it's not really a barrel. It is probably 10-gallon maybe. I would really have to check, but you can see our cucumbers right there. There's one, and there's just a whole bunch all throughout here. And we've got little cantaloupes sitting on the vines, looking amazing, getting super huge, and just loving it. We've got a whole ton of new growth, by the way, on our lemon tree that does have the cucumbers planted at the base, as well as the snapdragons. We've got Space Master cucumbers there. They're looking amazing. Really starting to get big too, just like these cucumbers and cantaloupes and things. Just look at the size of the plants now, and they're Space Master, and they haven't even started putting cucumbers on yet. They've been very slow in comparison with our other cucumbers. Anyway, we've got a lot of new growth on our lemon tree because I did trim it off. I did cut some of the limbs back just to get it to be a little bit more bushy. And we've got new growth everywhere in there. So lemon tree looking amazing. And we now have some of our yellow pear tomatoes that are getting ripe. So you can see a little bit of some yellowing down in there. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer. So see the difference in the color. And that is a whole cluster. There's another cluster, and another cluster, and another cluster, and another cluster. This one actually, we branched off into 3 suckers, technically 4. And we basically have one sucker going that way, a sucker coming this way, and a sucker going up that way, and then we have the main stem. So we've got loads and loads and loads of tomatoes, and they are all the biggest yellow pear tomatoes I have ever seen. Let me see if I can get a comparison for you. Normally these guys are pretty small, and look at the size of those yellow pear tomatoes. They're huge in comparison to what I got last season. And our sun gold cherry tomato that got broken at the beginning of the season and then branched off into 2 suckers. It now has so many tomatoes on it. It is growing tomatoes like crazy. Basically happened overnight. So we got clusters upon clusters of tomatoes through there. So this year I did not take a whole lot of suckers. The only suckers that I took were to root for other people to get them motivated to plant throughout Cheyenne. And I've seen a lot of people posting updates on a group that I follow on Facebook for Cheyenne called Oops, I Wet My Plants. Yes, that is the name of the group. And saw all kinds of pictures today that were uploaded by people of those plants, those rooted suckers doing amazing, having tomatoes on them too, and just growing by leaps and bounds. And all of the other plants that I'd given them, the borage, squash plants, all kinds of things. They are just doing amazing, and it's basically squash plants that I thinned my own squash plants because I didn't want to kill them. I transplanted them into pots. Almost all of them made it, and I just gave them out to people, and they have been sending pictures and updating me on how their plants are doing, and all of them are super huge. Their borage are blooming or about to bloom, and all their squash plants are doing amazing. I did go ahead and transplant my 2 giant tomatillos. I'm not sure they'll do anything. Again, it is very late in the season. These guys are still pretty small, but they are growing so fast from just what they were before I transplanted them to what they are now. And Sandy from suburban Homestead, Wyoming / Arizona, this is your huge tomato plant. There's 2 of them actually, but one of them's still really, really small. But this one is actually getting pretty big, pretty fast. And I did find 2 more tomato plants that came up volunteers in my lettuce bed over here. You can see the lettuce bed right in there, lettuce bed there. And I transplanted those out into a pot, and they started growing like crazy. And that was just 2 days ago. And they are just flying. I don't know if they are yellow pear tomatoes or maybe some tomato seed that I had in some soil and dumped out in there. I'm not real sure what they're going to be. Hopefully they'll fruit before the end of the season, and we'll find out. So stay along for the ride on that one so we can find out what kind of tomatoes those are. I did find some columbine that I had left behind in the herb garden, transplanted it into this pot. A couple of them died off, but one of them did make it, or maybe 2. And I'm going to pull those that died off out, and those 2 will remain, and we'll keep those for next season. And the basil is finally catching up. In this pot, there was supposed to have been 50 different varieties, and only some of the plants survived this terrible soil. So we'll see if these actually do anything, because they're still in the terrible soil, and we'll find out. So hopefully they will. We did plant more basil seed today. I'll show you that in just a moment, because we're getting ready for fall planting and fall herbs that I can carry inside when the snow starts to fly and all of that. And we did go ahead and trim some of the basil in that pot right there because it had gotten really full, and we went ahead and thinned that out a little bit and pinched some of that off, and we've got it in drying inside. I have not harvested any of the tarragon yet, but I am getting ready to. I'm just doing a little bit of research on it because I don't want to end up killing the plant. I'm not real familiar with tarragon, to be honest. So that is the first really big plant that I have gotten out of any that I've planted, and I don't want to kill it off. Hopefully I can take it inside for the winter. So we've got loads of tomatoes on what was supposed to have been our sun gold cherry tomatoes that are not sun gold cherry tomatoes. I am not sure what they are, to be honest. They kind of look like Romas, and you can see that looks like a Roma to me, and the other ones are looking like Romas too. And the tomatoes on the other one that I was sure was going to be a sun gold cherry tomato also look the same. So maybe they crossed with something. I'm not sure. Either way, they'll be good tomatoes and we'll enjoy them. And I wanted to show you that we have watermelons on the Black Diamond watermelon. The two that I said went ahead and set, they have just been growing like crazy. So that is coming on. We've got cucumbers now in our spring burpless cucumber plants. So they are starting to come on. Let me see if I can show you one in here. I'm not sure. Yes, there's one. And there's several more throughout the plants. Still nothing on our Space Master cucumbers, but they are getting big. Still blooming like crazy, so they're just slow for some reason. I'm not real sure I like them too much. I hadn't grown Space Master in such a long time, I didn't remember how long that it took them to produce, but it seems like a really long time. So not too happy with that so far until I see the cucumbers, and then we'll talk about it. The straight 8 cucumbers are doing exactly what the straight 8 cucumbers do. They take a little while, but once they get started, they really get going, and they are running like crazy. I've had to wrap them up on the trellises a couple of times, but they are getting going the way they should be. We've got some sort of squash plant in here, and I'm not even sure what I planted at this point. It could be a Tahitian squash because it kind of looks like the Tahitian squash over in one of the main garden beds. So I'm not real sure, but hopefully it'll come on and do something. I don't know if it'll happen or not. And we've got some more Space Master cucumbers around this tomato plant, and you can definitely see a ripe tomato in there. And same thing with these yellow pear tomatoes. They're super huge in comparison with last year's. And we've got clusters upon clusters hanging in here as well. And the plant just has gone beyond the stake. I'm probably going to have to put another stake in here just to make sure it doesn't blow and break. But yeah, loads of watermelons as well. Look at that big watermelon. We've got another big watermelon I've actually had to pull out of the pot. Look at that. And still not sure what this one is. I don't remember if it was a cucumber or a cantaloupe. At some point we had a tag in here, and the tag is now gone. And I think that might be the ravens. We've got a lot of ravens this year. They haven't bothered any of the plants, but I think they're stealing the tags because my tags are missing, or either teenagers are coming through and just thinking they're being funny, because we've had a lot of that activity too, and a lot of crime this year. Has anyone else throughout the country that watches my videos experiencing a lot of just stupid criminal crime? Just little stupid things like the late night knocking on doors or windows, and people threatening other people. It's been happening a lot here. We've had it happen 3 times recently. So that's going on, from what I can tell, across most of the country. But what have you guys been experiencing wherever you are? Let me know where you are and what you're experiencing so far. This cantaloupe, this is the Ball 2076 cantaloupe. I definitely know which one this one is because we still have all the tags in there. There are cantaloupes all over this thing. Most of them are not set yet, still blooming. You can see there, and there's one down there and one here, and there's cantaloupes everywhere in this thing. We've got 2 that I know of that are set. That is this one here, and one that I found last night that I didn't even realize I had. Look at that. That guy is huge already. And then of course we've got watermelons over here. Look at that guy. And we got another one that was set on here today. And we've got another slightly larger watermelon over here, and another one right there. So all of these watermelons, all of these cantaloupes are just knocking it out of the park on what they're doing this season. It's just amazing me, and I'm so thankful and grateful, and hopefully we'll have them come to fruition. And we've got watermelons all over this one as well that are just beginning to set, little guys. So crazy amount. We've had so many honeybees and just mason bees and all kinds of other bees this season that it has been amazing, the amount of bees that we've had. And they've definitely contributed to pollinating. We've had mason bees, and now I wish I had gotten like some mason bee houses or something, because they have just been so many in here, and they are so helping pollinate, and so are the cabbage butterflies. The cabbage butterflies honestly have died off now. I haven't seen very many at all. And actually I haven't seen any in like 2 weeks. So I think that they have died off. I haven't seen any. And I only had maybe a handful this year from what I normally have. So very thankful for the bees putting in their work. Every time I come out here, I just see bees all over the place. It just rained a moment ago, and when it rains, they kind of either sit under leaves and wait it out, or maybe go back to their nests wherever they are, or hives wherever they are, and kind of hang out for a little bit before they start coming back out again. But we have just had so many bees. It's been crazy. We have done a lot of changes in the herb garden, which now has become more of a vegetable garden than an herb garden anymore. We have squash that is coming on in here. We've got some zucchini and some butter dish squash. So you can see those in there. One of them got pretty damaged. There was 2 right here. One got completely killed out, and the other one got damaged pretty well. And the other ones, not so much. They got a little bit of damage, but not a whole lot, so I think they're going to actually try and do something. We've got our cucumbers in here. This one right here is running all over the place. I keep trying to trellis it, but it keeps wanting to go towards my lavender for some reason. And we have just got so much stuff going on in here. We've got the birdhouse gourds. We've got zinnias that are blooming now. Cosmos is getting ready to bloom. Our oregano is blooming. We got more cucumbers in here. And of course, we've always got our elf thyme in here, which is just spread like crazy, and I need to get some in here and clean some of that out. And we've got our rosemary. Actually took off like crazy once I took out the salvia, so you can see the rosemary right there. But all of it is doing so super well. Looks like my daughter's chamomile is bouncing back. It almost died off, and now it's coming back. And we harvested some lettuce and had some lettuce yesterday, and it was so delicious out of here. And we've got some bok choy that we planted, some little pak choy that is in this section where there's nothing right now. It'll start coming up in the next couple of days. Actually, some of it's came up already. Oh my gosh, we only had this planted 2 days. Right there. And it's coming up all through here. Wow. 2 days, guys. 2 days. A lot of my plants that normally take 7 days have been coming up in 2 days. Radishes and everything. So, craziness. Anyway, I'm happy about that. Watermelons, like I said, just going nuts. Got so many watermelons everywhere setting. And tomatoes, craziness. We keep harvesting lettuce and keep harvesting lettuce, and it keeps just, now it's wanting to try to bolt. So we keep trying to break off the stems so that way they won't bolt, and we keep getting lettuce throughout the rest of the season. Our burpee pickler cucumbers that are a little bit behind the other ones are definitely getting their mature leaves now and just exploding. I'm probably going to move them closer to the section over here because there is more sun that comes in over there throughout the earlier part of the day, and I think that they would probably benefit from that more. We have been transplanting some more tomato suckers. This is the last of the 3 remaining one. ones. We have one left that's still getting rooted. That'll be the last one. And they'll be done with tomato suckers and rooting them for people, because this will be the last ones. We're just getting too late in the season to do any more of that. So that is it on those. And this is our fall plants. We have our broccoli, our cabbages. We got Savoy. We have early golden acre and Deciso broccoli. Got that in there. We've got a couple more borage plants. Those are going to new homes. And we've got a couple of these fall plantings that we're going to be giving to new homes. So we got that going on. I trimmed some off of our mint, and we have that inside getting propagated and rooted so we can hand those out to people. Our corn is just about all tasseled now. So much of it, the only section remaining is at the very back where it's shaded. But for the most part, our corn has pretty much all tasseled and is looking fantastic. We've got corn ears setting, and we've got Tahitian squash blooming, getting ready to put their squash on. And then we've got more zinnias blooming through here, some about ready to bloom. Bean runners everywhere. The beans are running up the zinnias because some of the other corn hasn't gotten up to size yet. This is the ones that are shaded, and the ones that are behind that haven't tasseled yet, you can see just right in this section. But they are so much on the verge of tasseling and getting bigger that they're just so close. They're just so close to doing it. But as you can see, a lot of the ones that were shaded here, we've got some that are really short, but they're still putting ears on. So that's a good thing. But these are the shortest ones over here on the other side. And I don't know if it's because they get the sun the last or what. Because I thought they got sun from both directions, but it seems like they just were not getting all of it. But anyway, tasseling like crazy. We've got ears of corn like crazy in there. I'll show you some of the ears. We've got doubles and triples of ears of corn on all these, and they started right at the same time, so I think they're all going to be good ears. You can see that. Nice ears on this corn. They're just starting, so they're not real big yet. But we've got plenty of pollination going on. You can see there is a breeze, so it is pushing the corn back and forth. The pollination is dropping down and getting on the silks, and they are very well pollinated. And when it's not really a breeze through here, I just come through and shake the ears of corn like this, and you can see that shakes those around and drops the pollen down. Our Kellogg's breakfast tomatoes are setting tomatoes now. They're blooming. You can see blooms on there, and now beginning to set some tomatoes. Finally, they're the last ones of the tomatoes to start setting tomatoes. So got that one, and then we've got the smaller guy. The smaller guy is still struggling, but we got some new growth on it, so I think it's going to be good. We've got radishes in there that are about that big now, so that's good. We got the lemon cucumber is just starting to run like crazy up the trellis, and then we've got all of the Guido Cassaman squash in here that are looking like they're just ready to start running like crazy everywhere. Not much to update on the Kennebec potatoes. They're still just being Kennebec potatoes. They haven't died back or anything yet. They've got some yellow leaves at the bottoms, like they want to start dying back. Some of them have died back as far as the leaves go, but they haven't overall started to die back completely yet. They've bloomed. The blooms are gone. It's been about a week and a half since the last of them were blooming. So about 2 weeks is when the vines should start dying back. So just about any time we should start seeing that happening. So not too worried about it. So they still have plenty of time, because Kennebec potatoes are long season potatoes. So I'm not really looking to see that they will completely die back until sometime in September, I would think. So that we did get in here today, trim some of the bottom leaves on our tomatillos and our sunflowers that are in here, just so it gets more light into the other plants, because we have asters in here and eggplants and bachelor buttons and things like that that are in here that we didn't want to get completely shaded out. So we came in and just trimmed up some leaves on the bottom, and you can do that on sunflowers. It does not bother them a bit. In fact, it even promotes more blooms. So they can actually have more blooms in the sections where you've trimmed. And it just prompts it to do more. So they're looking really good. We've actually got some eggplants that are doing fantastic now, that are getting pretty big. So this one's just about to the point that I could stake it. It's gotten so big. This one has actually fallen over because it's gotten so tall. So I need to go ahead and get it staked. And then some of the ones in the back that are a little bit more shaded are catching up with the others. So we'll maybe get some eggplants pretty soon. Once they start, they don't take very long. All of our plants in here are doing great. All of our tomatillos, tomatoes, beans. I've picked about a gallon of beans off of all of the beans through here. We've got Japanese yard-long beans that have started. Let me show you one of those in here. Right in there. The vines are not super tall yet, but they're still climbing the trellis. So we've got about halfway up the trellis, and they will continue to grow on up the trellis and fill it on out. But almost all of the beans now have trellised up, pole beans, and we've got runners on our butternut squash through here. You can see one right there that's starting to really take off. Bloom's starting to happen. So I'm looking to have some butternut squash this year, besides the Tahitian squash. So you can see all the runners on the beans are just going like crazy. And by far the most production I've gotten so far has been out of the half runner beans. The 25 plants that are in here, they have just been knocking it out of the park with how many beans they've had. Of course, the contender bush beans have been very close second. We've gotten a lot of beans off of those, and I'm now starting to get beans on my top crock bush beans as well. So I've got loads of beans in here. Rattlesnake pole beans are climbing the trellis now too. They've gotten about halfway up on the green trellises, which are a little bit shorter than the black trellises, but they are climbing and they are blooming, which means they have got beans coming on. So that is fantastic. In fact, one of the rattlesnake pole beans is halfway up the black trellis. So I'm looking to see this whole trellis full, just like it was last season, and getting loads and loads and loads of beans off of these and getting to can a lot of beans. Maybe even do some pickle beans this year. And our onions are heading up. They've been heading up. They're just being slow about it, but they are finally getting some in here that are pretty good sized. So looking forward to those. You can see some in here, but I think what we had was a situation of possibly too much nitrogen in this soil this season, because we have got, as you can see, loads of greens on these onions. And I mean, you got some of them bent because of wind, but overall they haven't really bent or anything as far as onions being finished or anything. However, they're just so thick in here, I think that we just have too much nitrogen in the soil, which can cause more greens rather than more bulb, and you really want a bigger bulb. So we'll need to work with that next season, but I think we'll get a pretty good onion crop. We've got some medium-sized onions in here, and I said as long as they get to medium size, I would be happy with that. I'm happy with even just green onions, but of course you want to get bigger onions out of here, but we do have some medium-sized onions in there. Tomatoes. This week has been the week for tomatoes. We have got old German tomatoes that are sitting on the vines now. Just noticed that out of this plant in particular, there's a tomato in there. And our super sauce tomatoes are starting to produce. Even the one that I have that looks like it might have blight on it, that one, I got in there and trimmed it up a little bit, and I did notice that we've got some tomatoes on it. So I'm just going to leave them on there. I'm going to leave that plant there and see what it does. Maybe it'll pull out of the blight situation that has happened in the past. So we'll see. We'll see how it does. And even this one over here that's very blighted, and this was a San Marzano, where I think we ended up getting the blight from, is now putting tomatoes on it. So I'm going to leave it and let it continue to see what it can do. And we do have some new growth on the one that is very diseased right there. So I think I'm going to leave it and let it see what it can do as well. But we do have loads of San Marzanos on that plant, and this plant. So I think we'll have loads of those, even though they're short plants. Didn't really get as tall as I'd hoped that they would get, but it looks like that they are doing something. So I'm going to continue on with a part 2 of this video, just kind of an update of the garden and let you see what I'm doing and some of the fall planting. So we will see you in the part 2, and remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to see notices on new videos as they come out.